Israel conducts preemptive strikes to protect itself from militant Islamists who have taken control of Syria. Just how dangerous are the new rulers in Damascus, the rebel group HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham? And what might the future hold for Israel and Syrian Christians under their rule? Well, joining us to provide some insights is Middle East Forum Director Gregg. Gregg, the Islamist leader now forming an interim government in Damascus, Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, once headed up the al-Nusra Front, which was affiliated with al-Qaeda, and he pledged to impose Sharia law and establish a caliphate throughout the Levant. But now he says he wants peace with Syria's neighbors, except for Iran and Hezbollah. And he wants to protect the rights of all minority groups in Syria. So has the leopard changed his spots? Why should we believe him?
I think we have to be very cautious and careful about the fact that a so-called former al-Qaeda operative, the head of al-Qaeda's divisional command in Syria, who was actually dispatched there by Abu Bakir al Baghdadi, the now dead head and founder of the Islamic State, is claiming to want peace. I think that his words versus the actions on the grounds have to be carefully criticized and analyzed insofar as it relates that there's a very different fabric of what's going on in the day-to-day operations now in post-Assad Syria, rather than what his missives may suggest otherwise.
Well, how about Syria's Christian community? Many are saying they're fine for now. They're not suffering atrocities yet. They're concerned for the future. How concerned should they be?
So there is something to be given that HTS, when it was ruling just Idlib, which is the sliver of Syrian territory that it's controlled for the past 13 years in the northwest of the country, went so far as to have Islamist-ran ministries encourage Christians to celebrate Christmas, Easter, and other holidays, especially from the Syriac Orthodox churches that were active in that province. But now that they've moved from a rebel group to taking full control, or almost full control, of all Syrian territory west of the Euphrates River, and even have gone so far as to try and bring the top bishop from Aleppo to speak on their behalf. I'm not sure if they're going to keep on carrying out these type of propaganda-like exercises, considering the fact that they're on their way to establish an Islamic State in Syria.
So we've got to look at their past and look what they've done in Idlib and elsewhere. And how about Israel? Now, they've received international criticism for taking out Syrian naval ships in Latakia and destroying chemical weapons facilities near Damascus, even sending troops over the border into Syria from the Golan. So did those actions violate international law? How important was it for Israel to take those measures?
I think anyone looking at a clear-eyed view of what is happening now in Syria in a post-Assad regime, and even reports that have come out from the Ministry of Intelligence and the Ministry of the Interior in Syria, leaked documents that were actually put on Twitter this week, show that there was sort of a Faustian bargain between Israel and Assad prior to his fall, in which Israel agreed for Syria to have a certain amount of arms to be able to fight back against the insurgency, which has now completely conquered the territory, as I said beforehand, west of the Euphrates. But that was in exchange for it trying to provide Israel with backgrounders information on weapons transports that were being sent from Iran into Iraq through Syria and then to Hezbollah. Now that that bargain is officially over, Israel had to invoke Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, its right to self-defense, and take out any strategic weaponry that, God forbid, would fall into the hands of the Islamist mercenaries and the Islamist rebels, which have now taken over Damascus. Israel was well within its international rights to destroy any weaponry which new forces that it does not have an agreement with would be able to use to target Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. I think it was completely justified, and the international community is acting like a peanut gallery, not understanding Israel's true security needs.
Yeah, I can't imagine HTS with a Navy and also with chemical weapons. Can you?
No, not at all. And it's not just it's not just Israeli forces which have been on the lookout for this. There are reports of American intelligence provision to its Kurdish allies in the SDF, for members of the Druze communities in Swaya in southern Syria on the northern Golan Heights, but on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights, helping provide information on the whereabouts this area. And even we have reports of a top Syrian chemist being assassinated in the neighborhoods of Damascus. So I think Israel is going to its full extent to not just eliminate the apparatus, which was Syria's chemical weapons program, but also all those who have the know-how and the knowledge to reactivate it under an HTS regime.
Okay, now Turkey has supported HTS and another group, the SNA, which is really the Turkish surrogate army battling Kurdish forces in northeast Syria. So to what extent should the U.S. get involved to help our Kurdish allies? After all, I mean, you remember they helped Donald Trump and the United States eliminate the ISIS threat. They destroyed the Islamic Caliphate. So what should we do about it?
I think it's come to recognize the U.S. policy should call for a semi-autonomous or maybe completely autonomous region of Rojava, or that of the Kurdish enclave, which is east of the Euphrates River in northeast Syria. And if the U.S. is not willing to back its Kurdish allies, what kind of message does that send to other American allies throughout the rest of the world, which have fought hand in glove with American forces on the ground in areas which have posed a threat to U.S. national security interests? As it relates to Turkey, this is the Ottomanization of Erdogan's grand vision to cast the Sunni Pale to replace the Shia Crescent, which is now dissolving as Iran is kicked out of the greater Arabic-speaking Middle East. And I think the U.S. has to be very careful in terms of dealing with the SNA, with HTS, and any other force which may come to power in Damascus. It should be U.S. policy to back its allies to the hilt. And right now, Erdogan is not acting like an American ally insofar as he's supporting, arming, and giving logistics and intelligence to a force which is trying to wipe out the Kurdish presence in Syria.
I know you'll be keeping an eye on this for further developments, Greg, and thank you for your time. Middle East Forum Director Gregg Roman, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Gary.